Hi there. You know, it's interesting how so many people use meatloaf as an insult as opposed to, say, a roast beef, because when you're talking about meatloaf, you're usually referring to this hunk of dried out, tasteless ground beef that you take out of the oven. Well, instead of that, we'll be making a pork meatloaf here, made with 3 pounds of homemade Italian sausage. All it takes is a little care and, of course, a cast iron roasting pan. And what we end up with is, well, not just another meatloaf.
Of course, you can use ground pork or even Italian sausage purchased at the store, but this pork shoulder was 99 cents a pound, and that's a fraction of the price of Italian sausage.
I have this crazy urge to sing Pink Floyd.
Besides, it gives a chance to have some fun with a cast iron meat grinder. Also, it's very easy to make pork sausage, as all you have to do is mix in spices with the ground pork. We take our dried spices and pulverize them into powder. Of course, most folks these days use a spice grinder, but it's a lot of fun to be able to use an old-fashioned mortar and pestle. Doing everything by hand makes it a little more special. From here, we simply mix in some red wine vinegar, which not only adds a lot of flavor, it also smells wonderful. Along with salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, some smoked paprika, and a little brown sugar.
1, 2, 3.
Add in the powdered spices and start kneading.
And start working. And that's how easy it is to make homemade Italian sausage.
And the hardest part is now done. All we have to do now is heat up the oven, chop up an onion, and mix our sausage together with the basic ingredients for meatloaf, namely eggs, breadcrumbs, milk, and a few more spices. If you get the impression I love smoked paprika, you're right. That and your basic generic Italian seasoning. We mix this together with a spoon because we don't want to overmix it, or else the meatloaf will be too dense and dry. And now it's time to break out a cast iron pan. Even though this is a meatloaf, it's better not to use a loaf pan to make this dish because the extra grease can exit the loaf and keep it from becoming too greasy. We then insert a probe thermometer and set the temperature for 140 degrees. The reason for the low temperature is we're not done yet. It's easy to just coat a meatloaf with ketchup, but here we're preparing a simple recipe for homemade barbecue sauce. Remember, when pouring molasses, be sure to grease the measuring cup with olive oil first. In fact, this comes from a recipe for Boston baked beans, which go great with pork. But again, there's nothing wrong with using ketchup, barbecue sauce, and honey if you want it. Now we coat the meatloaf with sauce, and then it goes back into the oven to bake until it reaches 160 degrees.
Probe goes back in. Wait.
And now, ready for serving, hot out of the oven, here is our giant sausage meatloaf. You might even say we can see paradise by the stovetop light.
I do hope this is a meatloaf people will actually want to eat. I'm quite proud of how this turned out, and if you make this for your guests, well, they may never look at meatloaf in quite the same way. Thank you for watching.